Hey everyone, welcome to another show. I'm always in situations where people are asking me, hey, what's the difference between a safe feature and an epic? And then safe also has the concept of epics and capabilities and all these other things. But are these things the same thing? I hear this in forums, I hear this in classrooms, I hear this during coaching. Let's talk about it today. Roll that beautiful damn footage. Is your safe features the same thing as epics? Um, and obviously, I say here, is this really a question, right? Because fundamentally, there are people who actually think that they're the same thing, but they're not. And we'll talk about that. So, first and foremost, before I dive into anything else with this topic, what you need to know to just start off really in a very simple place is that you need to understand planning. Okay. And when we talk about planning, there are two classic plannings that we deal with, at least empirical. That should be empirical, not imperial, right? So obviously, I need to spell check that. But you see, empirical, I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to tell you, right? So you got empirical planning versus defined planning, right? Defined planning is what we don't do in the agile space in general. So, regardless of what framework you're using, methodology that you're using, values, principles, whatever those things are, we're classically in the agile world not utilizing a defined framework. And the defined planning is really characterized by a few things that you see listed here. You got detailed and it's comprehensive. It's normally sequential execution. And then you also have stability, and then you have limited flexibility. These are classic things you will see with defined plans. Now, I say that because you need to understand I'm a Six Sigma black belt. DMAIC is associated with defined planning because it is very sequential. Everything that I stated here is exactly what DMAIC is. Waterfall is designed to be the same way. We just try to use it in a different way. So the idea is that in this world that we operate in, we have defined planning. But what we're focused in this world is more empirical planning. And like I said, I messed up this word, but with empirical planning, there's a bigger focus more on iterative and incremental. Probably more iterative than incremental, okay? Because everything doesn't build things piece by piece. Continuous feedback is a big part of it, transparency and embracing change. So please understand I am not talking on this side of the house at all about either of these topics. So please know and clearly understand that. Now, if you just just breathe that in. Now, as you breathe that in, let's talk a little bit, right? Why would we use empirical planning? We utilize empirical planning for a few things. One of them is iterative development, okay, which is absolutely important. Collaboration is another. But probably one of the most important ones to me is reality based prioritization because you're getting that constant feedback and then continuous alignment based on the feedback that you're getting. So you're having the cycle of things happen again and again and again and again and again over and over and over again, right? So these are the reasons why we would utilize empirical planning. I'm not going to say anything about defined planning because that's not what we're here to talk about. So that's just nuggets as we lead into the topic of the day. So let's jump into this a little bit, right? Well, let me ask you, is there anybody here that doesn't understand the difference between defined and empirical planning? If you don't, I would advise you to go and get some foundational things under your belt, literally, because it's a big part of all this stuff when it comes to agility. And I would consider it to be extremely foundational. Extremely foundational. And if you don't get that foundation right, you're going to get everything else wrong. And I would guarantee you that a lot of people that's utilizing these frameworks got it wrong completely. So I'm just telling you, just take that step and learn. You can learn for free, man. All this stuff is available for you free on the internet. So just go out there and learn a little bit more if you don't understand what I just talked about. Let's continue our conversation, right? What is a safe feature? Now, safe has updated to 6 point something, right? And when we talk about safe here, what you want to understand, and I just took this directly from their website because nobody can explain it better than them. So if you want to fight and argue with me, that's all right. Go fight and argue with them. A safe feature, fundamentally, is solution functionality that delivers business value, that fulfills a stakeholder's need, and is sized to be delivered in an ART, a release, agile release train that functions within a program, product increment, whatever you call it, right? So a PI, okay? I might have that program or product thing wrong. Now, here's the deal. Associated with a safe feature are three classic things. The first of those things is going to be benefits hypothesis. And a benefits hypothesis is a statement of proposed value. That's all the benefit hypothesis is, right? It's just a statement of proposed value. Also associated with a safe feature is going to be acceptance criteria. Now, acceptance criteria is really how you're going to measure whether you met the delivery. This is owned or managed by the product manager, okay? And then it got to be sized. Estimated to be completed within an ART, within a PI, right? So literally, these things are extremely important for any safe feature. Now, what I want you to understand is if you want to look this stuff up, this information comes directly from Scaled Agile. So you're welcome to go there, and I give all attribution to them, especially this quote. But let's take it a little bit further than that, right? Because as I think about some of the key attributes of a safe feature, it is that it's focused on user value, okay? And that's important for you to understand. It is supposed to be focused on user value. It is supposed to be testable. That's the main reason why you have acceptance criteria. It's supposed to be time bound. Time bound, art, time bound, art, PI, all that stuff, time bound, right? And it's supposed to be, well, at that level, it's cross-functional. Let me come back and let me look at you because I need you to understand this. At that level, that high level, that thing should still be cross-functional. That feature should still be cross-functional at that level. When you break it down, things might look a little different. But I am not talking about the broken down different pieces that happen however you decide to deliver it. But at that level, that feature should still be something that can be thought of as being cross-functional, right? So extremely important to set that aside and to make sure you understand that, okay? Now, I'm going to ask a question here. When I throw these attributes out there, do you see something different in your organization in terms of what they do? Is your features from a safe perspective, cross-functional, time-bound, testable, focused on some user value or maybe business value? Something to be thought about, right? Well, that's important because there are some other things that you need to know. Because whenever you talk about a safe feature, there's some other terms that you probably want to become familiar with. One of them is a capability. A capability is just really big functionality that can go across arts, agile release trains. An MMF is focused on validated features. The validated feature value is what it's focused on. Weighted shortest job first, WSJF, is a prioritization model. And then normalized estimation techniques. And notice that I didn't say story points specifically, because normalized estimation techniques within that art allows you to be able to share capacity, forecasting, and decision making within that art, which means you can compare things, you can do all kinds of things, right? Or a near normalized estimation technique. Okay, so realistically, those are things that when you think about a safe feature, you should probably get a simple understanding of those things as well. Okay, now I'm going to ask you all a question, and it's a really simple question. What did I miss out on? What did I miss out on? Right? What did I absolutely miss out on? Because the idea is that safe feature is those things. Okay? So what did I miss out on? You all let me know. Right? Very, very simple. I'm going to keep it moving because I want to talk about the next thing, the next topic at hand. And the next topic at hand isn't anything difficult at all, right? That next topic at hand is I want to really talk about what is an epic, right? Because if they're going to be equal, then we got to understand the perspective. And the first thing that you need to understand is Scaled Agile's definition of an epic is interesting. Not that it's good or bad, they just have a definition for an epic. That definition of Scaled Agile's epic is not the same as the XP team that invented the concept of an epic. Let me repeat that for you so you understand. The Scaled Agile definition of an epic is not the same as the XP team that invented it. Is there anybody that's surprised by that? Because if you are, that's a whole problem. You understand? That's a whole problem. Okay? Now, Scaled Agile's definition can be boiled down to being a development initiative. Now, can there be multiple user stories, features inside of an epic, capabilities maybe? Y'all debate that, right? But an epic is supposed to be a development initiative, okay? That's what it is defined as according to Scaled Agile. However, the XP team that invented it called it a big user story. That's it. It's simply that. If you notice, these things are not equal. Okay? Now, maybe you could say that an epic from a thought process has evolved. You could say that. You know, you call it old school if you want to, too. I see Andrew calling it old school, right? Saying the old school epic is not the same as safe. I agree with you, Andrew. I don't disagree with you at all. And if you look at what you see right here, it is obviously true. Obviously true. So then, we're not going to belittle it. Let's keep it simple. So then, what is an epic? All it is, once again, and I cannot make it any more clear than this, it's a big user story. There's normally a parent-child relationship between an epic and a user story, but there's no real differentiation in terms of size of that epic, except it's likely going to take you more than one sprint to get done. Have there ever been epics that I've had a team can get done in one sprint because they decide to swarm on it? Absolutely. But the classic understanding is that it's a big user story. A user story is something to get done in one single sprint, which means that if it's an epic and it's a big user story, then you're talking about something that's going to probably span across sprints, take more than one sprint to get done, period. Does that make sense? So that's it. That's all it is to it. Now, you take it a little bit further than that, right? Because when you start thinking about an epic, you need to understand some terms as well, like a user story. A user story is simply something the user wants. That's it. What is a theme? A theme is a collection of user stories. It's like me having a bunch of different cars in the parking lot, but I wanted to grab all the cars that were blue. So I'm going to grab the blue theme and say, I just only want the cars that are blue, right? They're all cars. I'm just getting a collection of those cars. There doesn't have to be a hierarchy or a relationship that exists between them. It's just that I have this theme that I'm going to provide as this collection. A feature, by the way, has absolutely no meaning in this world, at least not to the original team that defined what an epic was. So the meaning of a feature classically varies from organization to organization to organization. I have seen organizations say a feature breaks down into epics, and epics break down into user stories. I've seen them say features and epics are equivalent. I see them say that epics break down into features that break down into user stories. I've seen all those things and tools that match those. And last but not least, story points. Story point, a story point simply is the overall effort needed to implement the entire story. You know, all of the work that goes into it is what a story point is. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. It's supposed to be relative to the other things that exist, but it's all the effort that goes into it. Okay? However you want to measure it, you measure it. I don't care. Okay? So you just keep these things real simple and plain. They are not designed to be complicated at all. They were never designed to be complicated. Okay? So then you say to yourself, hey, what are some key attributes of an epic? Well, if you really just take it and just step back, an epic encompasses multiple features. It can include multiple features in there. It can include multiple user stories in there. I've seen epics have multiple themes that are associated with them in some kind of way. So I've seen that it can, encompass multiple things, right? An epic is really there for strategic alignment, right? It's there for long-term planning, and probably the biggest of these things is there to help with prioritization and the ability to break things down. That's what epics focus in on. So, what did I miss here in terms of epics, y'all? If you think about an epic, what did I miss? What did I miss in terms of the classic, agile, old school epic concept? Well, I could have missed a lot of things, but I took it back to the basics, to the most simplest concepts way back in my beginnings, understanding of what an epic was. And yeah, it's evolved in organizations, but I always go back to that core concept of what it is. And I take it from there. No further than that. Okay? And I'm not here to fight with anybody or anything like that.